Well, that was on brand. What's up, everybody? I'm Jim Rodriguez, and welcome to the Wednesday, the hump day version of Dodgers Latest here on our YouTube channel. Want to thank you, as always, for all the support. Hit me up right there on Instagram and on X at JRodShow. And, of course, love to hear your comments and read them. And we're going to get to them on this edition of Dodgers Latest as the Dodgers... Man, they blew another one. My goodness, how many more of these do we got to put up with as the Dodgers let a 4-0 lead get away in Phoenix? Game and a half lead now in the West. Magic number stays at 3. And let's get into it. Yeah, we talked about how the Dodgers bullpen has been on brand. Well, look at that. Their 26th blown save of the year. I mean, that is just inexcusable. And it's not like it's been one guy. We love to pick on Tanner Scott, and he was the culprit again. He's the last guy you see on the mound. So, yeah, you always think it's him. But look at this, 26 blown saves for the Dodgers. The 11th time they've been walked off in a game. And for Tanner Scott, his 10th blown save of the season. That leads the majors. He's got an ERA of over 5. But listen, they've all been guilty of it. So the question becomes, what in God's name do you do? Because, again, they've had all season to figure this out. And, yeah, they've been stubborn. And, yeah, you're going to go with who got you there. And I get it. But this team, as of now, doesn't look like it's going to go very far in the postseason. No way. They may win a first round best of 3 because, again, you can dominate with starting pitching. But when you got to get into the tall grass, when you got to get that 27th out in Philadelphia or in Milwaukee or in the American League home of the champions, who do you trust? I mean, literally, who do you trust? I've got some ideas and of what they should do and would love to hear what you've got to say. So, yeah, what is next for this bullpen? Well, for me, I don't know how Tanner Scott's got a place on the postseason roster. Listen, good for him. He got his 4-year, $72 million contract, earned it to get up to that point, but he's been awful. He has been trash this year. There's no doubt about it. And I don't understand if it's tipping pitches, if it's mechanics. There's clearly a lack of confidence in that entire bullpen. But they haven't been able to figure him out, which I don't understand between scouting and coaches and advisors and this and this. He still sucks, man. I mean, you hate to say the word, but he's been terrible. 10 blown saves to lead the majors. Blake Trinan's been awful. You know, the one guy who was okay was Vesia, but he was shaky, but he got through an 8th inning. I just don't see how anybody has any job secured in the bullpen. So my idea, what's next for this bullpen, is to not use him in the postseason. I think it's an all-starter featured game. In other words, you have a starter, your traditional guy like an Ohtani or a Snell or a Yamamoto, and then in relief, you bring in another starter, whether it's Kershaw, whether it's Emmett Sheehan, whether it's Tyler Glasnow, somebody. So you get 6 or 7 innings out of your principal starter like an Ohtani, and then you bring in an Emmett Sheehan to close the door to pitch 3, or you bring in even a Robleski who was kind of used in that role for a little bit when Emmett Sheehan started, because I don't trust anybody in the bullpen. Do you trust anybody in that bullpen? I mean, anybody. I don't think so. And it's one of these situations where, yeah, they may magically find it in the postseason. Maybe the postseason, it's a different mindset, different way of doing it. But if you can't get an out, if you can't close a game against the Rockies, if you can't close a game against the Phillies in a regular season, if you can't close a game in Phoenix the last week of the season, how are you going to get a last out in Philadelphia? Because that would be who the Dodgers would play if they got through the wild card series. And again, all of a sudden now, the postseason gets a little interesting because the Dodgers still very much in good shape, right? They got to win. Their magic number is 3, so they have their hands. They control their own destiny. They win 3 of these next 5 games. No matter what the Padres do, the Dodgers win the West. They got 2 in Phoenix and they got 3 in Seattle. And the good thing is that by the time they get to Seattle this weekend, that division may be over with. As the Mariners have already clinched a postseason spot and they're trying to wrap up the American League West title over the Houston Astros, who, by the way, are on the outside looking in now. They're not in the playoff spot. Dodgers are in the playoffs, so the Dodgers could be Western Division champions and host either the Reds, the Diamondbacks, or the Mets in the first round wild card series at Dodger Stadium starting on Tuesday. Or they could lose out to the Padres, have the Padres win the division, and the Dodgers and Padres essentially flip spots. Dodgers drop to the 5th spot and have to go to Wrigley Field on Tuesday and have to win a 2 out of 3 in Chicago. Or and wouldn't this be interesting if the Dodgers fell all the way to the 6th spot, and the Dodgers are in no matter what. Dodgers are in. If they fall all the way to the 6th spot, they would end up playing in San Diego in the wild card series on Tuesday. Now, that would be some cinema, right? So, again, all this is how do you maneuver this? And it doesn't almost matter where or who or how. The bullpen has got to do their job. And once again, we saw them blow another unbelievable outing by a starting pitcher. And now, does this mean, after what we saw from Ohtani last night, 6 scoreless innings, that's the most innings he's pitched this year, got up to 91 pitches, they pushed him. This is why they've been stretching him out this year. It looks like wherever it is, Ohtani will pitch game 1 of the wild card series. So it could be Ohtani, Snell, Yamamoto. That could probably be the rotation for the wild card series regardless. And I'll tell you what, Ohtani looked brilliant, right? He took that comebacker, had given up a hit for the first time since mid-September. He has pitched so well. He looked locked in. When he came off the mound after getting that last out in the 6th inning, it looked like he was pitching in a playoff game. He was ready. I just hope the rest of the team is ready. The rest of that pitching staff is ready because at this point, it's just not compatible anymore with a championship ball club to have these starters, pitch 6-7 innings and still that not be good enough, because at that point now it's incumbent on the offense to score 7, 8, 9 runs. Because last night 4-0 into the 7th inning, you think this game is over. Not close. Yeah, it was over. It was over for the Dodgers as the bullpen imploded and gave up 5 runs in 2 2/3 innings. But Ohtani looks like he is set up to pitch game 1 of the wild card series. Ohtani has said, hey, he even would consider playing in the outfield to be able to come in relief. Clayton Kershaw has volunteered to come out of the bullpen for this series, maybe trying to find a spot in the postseason roster coming out of the bullpen. And we still haven't seen Roki Sasaki. Looks like he was going to be activated tonight. Maybe he will be able to pitch. So they still have some options. But again, I think it's got to be an all-starter relief corps to come in. So maybe it's Sasaki, maybe it's Sheehan, maybe it's Kershaw coming in for Ohtani, Glasnow, Snell, and Yamamoto, because this bullpen, catastrophe right now. Catastrophe. All right, we've asked about, being part of the show, and we always love to hear from your comments. And immediately we talked one from our buddy from Will Diaz, who said, I'd like to see Sheehan piggyback Ohtani this postseason. That would be most likely to give the bullpen the night off if those pitch like they have been. Yeah, that's exactly, Will. That's exactly what we're saying, because, again, who do you trust? Who would you want in there in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning to actually pitch well? Trinan's been awful. We know the woes of Tanner Scott. Banda's been okay. Does Vesia become a closer? He was the closer for a minute, but she sure was shaky last night. I think that's, again, the Dodgers will do what they do. It's hard to argue with the success. It's hard to argue coming off a world championship. And this Ohtani experiment looks like it's ready to sort of flourish in the postseason. But again, I don't trust anybody in that pen. So again, make me starters. So if Ohtani goes 7 or Ohtani goes 6, then you bring Sheehan to close the door. If Snell goes 7, then you bring in Kershaw or Sasaki or Glasnow. If Yamamoto goes in, then you bring in Robleski. Something like that to where it's just a bunch of starters. Because remember, who got the last out at Yankee Stadium last year to win the World Series? A starter in Walker Buehler. So it's all part of the mix. And until the Dodgers, and again, I've always said this, in sports, things are a narrative until they're not. So the Dodgers bullpen sucks until it doesn't. And right now we're waiting for it to not suck. Remember to hit me up on X and Instagram at JRodShow. We love to hear your comments. Always love to talk about it here on the show. Hit us up on Dodgers Latest. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, hit that thumbs up button as we get closer. 5 more games in the regular season. Snell on the mound tonight. Yamamoto on the mound tomorrow in Phoenix. And then the Dodgers head to Seattle for the weekend. Looks like Clayton Kershaw is set up to pitch the last game of the season in Seattle as the Dodgers hopefully by that point have wrapped up the division. Magic number is 3. They're a game and a half up on the Padres. Padres are playing the Brewers today. Dodgers will know before they take the field in Arizona whether they're a game up or 2, and if that magic number has gone down. Essentially, magic number is 3. Any combination of Dodger wins and or Padre losses that come out to 3 give the Dodgers the NL West title. Dodgers are in the playoffs. That's the one good thing. They have that fallback. But you don't want to be on the road. You don't want to be in the wild card series to begin with, where it's best of 3, no travel. But at least you'd rather be home for that, as opposed to having to be at Wrigley Field. And oh man, can you imagine if they slip all the way to 6 and have to be in San Diego for that wild card series with that bullpen? Whoo, buddy. Maybe the folks in Park Avenue at Major League Baseball would love that, as that would be a primetime game for sure all week long. All right, let's get ready to go. Shake off last night. Snell on the mound tonight. Diamondbacks only 1 game out of that last wild card spot, so they still have plenty to play for. Should be a good time out on the desert. I'm Jim Rodriguez, and come hell or high water, no matter what happens with this team, it's always time for Dodger baseball.